So, who gets to decide what a story really means? Is it the author? Is it you, the reader? Or is the truth hiding somewhere in the text itself? Today, we're going to dive into a really fascinating debate about the very limits of interpretation.
I mean, come on, we've all been there, right? You walk out of a movie totally convinced you know what it was about, but your friend has this completely different kind of wild theory. So who's right? And maybe more importantly, does it even matter if one of you is wrong?
Well, it turns out this isn't just something we argue about after a movie. It's a huge philosophical question that some of the greatest thinkers of the 20th century really clashed over. And it was all captured in this amazing book, which came from a series of lectures by the brilliant Italian novelist and philosopher Umberto Eco.
Okay, so where does all this start? Well, it begins with a really thorny problem, something we could call the limitless meaning problem. This is the big worry, right? If any interpretation is just as good as any other, if a story can mean whatever you want it to mean, well, does the story itself lose all meaning? Does it just become a blank slate for our own ideas? That's a pretty scary thought, and it's exactly the problem Umberto Eco wanted to solve. So, what was his solution? Eco argued that, yeah, a text can have a lot of different interpretations, but it can't have infinite interpretations. He made this really powerful case for putting some boundaries on what things can mean. To do this, Eco said we need to pull apart three different kinds of intent. First, there's the author's intent, what the writer was actually trying to say. Second, there's the reader's intent, what we want the story to be about. But for Eco, the really crucial one, the one that acts like a referee, is the intention of the work itself, the intentio operis. So intentio operis basically means the text isn't just a random pile of words, it's a machine with its own internal logic. It has a structure, it has rules. And for Eco, a good interpretation has to play by those rules. It has to work with the clues and the boundaries that the text itself gives you. And this is just the perfect analogy for his whole point. Picture yourself as a detective showing up at a crime scene. That crime scene is the text. Sure, you can have theories, but those theories have to be based on the evidence you find there. You can't just make up clues or ignore a piece of evidence because it doesn't fit the story you want to tell. For Eco, the text is the final word. But, it's never that easy, is it? Just when Eco laid out this beautiful, elegant solution, a couple of other intellectual heavyweights who were right there at these lectures stepped up to challenge him. And this is where things get really interesting. So meet our challengers, the philosopher Richard Rorty and the literary critic Jonathan Culler. They looked at Eco's tidy framework and basically said, hold on a minute, that's a nice idea for how to interpret a text, but maybe that's not the most interesting thing we can do with them. And this slide gets right to the heart of the disagreement, especially with Rorty. For Eco, the goal is interpretation. It's all about finding the meaning that's already inside the text. But for Rorty, the goal is use. It's about finding a purpose for that text in the here and now. This quote just perfectly sums up Rorty's whole philosophy. He was a pragmatist. For him, a text is a tool. The big question isn't, did I get the meaning right? It's, did this text help me do something? Did it change my mind? Or help me see the world differently? For Rorty, meaning is all about what's useful.
And then there's Jonathan Culler, the provocateur. He took it a step further. He argued that what Eco calls overinterpretation isn't a mistake at all. It's a feature. By pushing a text to its absolute limits, even by getting it wrong, we learn all sorts of fascinating things about ourselves, our culture, and how we make meaning. It's an act of discovery.
So what we have here is just a classic intellectual standoff. Three absolutely brilliant minds, with three fundamentally different ways of looking at the exact same problem. Let's just break it down one more time. You've got Eco, the detective, asking, what does the text allow me to say? Then you've got Rorty, the pragmatist, asking, what is this text useful for? And finally, you have Culler, the provocateur, asking, what can even a so-called wrong interpretation show us about ourselves?
When you really boil it all down, this whole debate is about one central conflict. Do we see a text as this fixed, almost sacred object that has a specific meaning we need to uncover? Or do we see it as a flexible tool that we can pick up and use to create new meanings for ourselves?
Now, I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds like a very academic debate from, 30 years ago. But trust me, this argument has totally escaped the classroom and is now happening every single day all around us.
Seriously, this isn't just theory. Understanding these different perspectives, Eco's interpretation, Rorty's use, and Culler's overinterpretation, it gives you an incredibly powerful toolkit for making sense of the crazy world of information we all live in. Just think about it for a second.
That wild fan theory about your favorite show? That's Cooler's creative over-interpretation at work. An argument over what the writers of a law really meant. That's a total eco-style debate. A politician twisting a news article to serve their agenda? That's Rorty's concept of use in action, though maybe not in a good way. Once you see this pattern, you see it everywhere.
And this is probably the biggest takeaway of all. This whole debate gives us better questions to ask. So instead of just arguing about what does this mean, we can take a step back and ask, wait, why am I interpreting it this way? Or what purpose does my reading serve? And maybe most importantly, who benefits when this story gets told in this particular way?
So the next time you come across a story or a news report or even just a tweet, take a second to think about it. Are you going to approach it like Eco's detective, carefully looking for clues inside the text? Or are you going to be like Rorty's pragmatist, looking for how you can use it? Or maybe you'll be like Color's provocateur, pushing the boundaries just to see what you can find. The choice is yours.